had the privilege of having joined us live in the studio a professor of business admin from Ravenna University. Is a person of Professor Anthony Ijewere. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, before we went on that break, you were giving us insight to so many secrets and about Godo. So take us through. Let's just wrap up on that thought.
Look, we're talking about whether the state is so incapacitated to the extent that people now challenge the state. Yes, every government that comes.
Yes.
The implication is that the Nigerian state, those who preside over the affairs of the state, the governing elite, and I've been mentioning political parties, not as if I hate any of them. Are you getting it? But people that run these political parties are Nigerians, and they belong to a class, the governing class. So either they come from PDP at a particular point in time, or they come from APC at a particular point in time. They are members of the same class, and they are supposed to exhibit what we call nationalistic leadership, patriotic leadership, that will take Nigeria from the past of bad leadership, the past of leadership failure, to the present of deliberate attempt to reconstruct the state, so that the state can occupy its place among the Committee of Nations. But the reverse is the case. Why is the reverse the case? We see that failure of leadership make people excuse me, to withdraw from the people who are supposed to contribute their quota to national development. They withdraw their support for the state. They enter into their cocoon. Inside that their cocoon, they plan how they can benefit from the state, since the government is not alive to its responsibility. This leads to creation of ungoverned spaces, like the Niger Delta we are talking about. The space is ungoverned. Even though we have a lot of policemen there, a number of people there, army there, all of them, the government presence here is diminished, in quote, because there is a connivance between those who are perpetrating it, international people, those who are perpetrating local people, then the community, and then the state actors who are supposed to resist the activities of non-state actors. They now connive with state actors. If you go close to the police and the army or Nigeria Air Force, you see that people battle. They bribe their way within their high command to be posted to the Niger Delta.
We will get back to you on this so that you just furnish us with more information. There was a time the naval boss, the #1 naval boss, was actually fingered in some of these issues. But actually, they actually came out to debunk that issue and said it was baseless, that the boss wasn't involved. But let's quickly come to Prof. Anthony. Professor, you're going to help us out. Yes. Looking at the current economic landscape under this administration, headed by the Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, let's try to nip it up with some of the hardship, the issues facing Nigerians. What's the way out?
Well, it is most unfortunate that first of all, let me apologize for coming a little bit late.
It's okay.
It's most unfortunate that I thought the simple definition of democracy is government by people for the people and all that. But I think with the Bola Tinubu regime, democracy has been refined, redefined. It's government by the people for the people, and only for the rich and for the politicians. That's the new definition under Tinubu's regime. Most unfortunate. Now, if I go by that concept or analogy, is the government actually feeling the pulse of the people? I think that is the issue. Are they feeling the pulse of the people? Of course, the answer is no. Because if you come up with economic policy, okay, the economic policy ought to have human face. Okay. You know, ought to have human face. You cannot tell Nigerians that, oh, the gray warehouses, you've opened it up.
So metric tons of rice.
Yes, metric tons of rice, grains, you know, that when Nigerians are fed with this, the economic policy, the food policy.
So where have been these warehouses before now?
Exactly.
That's the question.
Exactly. So
a bag of rice is about 100,000 now.
Yes. So that is not the issue. So is the government really serious? I think the government is not feeling the pulse of the people. What I'm saying,
you think so?
I think so, and I know, and I will support it with facts.
Okay, let's have those facts.
Yes, the government is not feeling the pulse of the people. So I would have expected that the government should look at the economic background to solve this problem, and not what I would call cosmetic emergency approach to the whole issue. The exchange rate, for example, can be curtailed.
Okay.
Yes.
How?
Can be curtailed because it can be pegged.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be pegged. For example, it can be pegged. Countries have that as economic policy. The central bank has that power to peg the currency. No, yes, you don't leave it floating.
Okay.
What they are doing now, they are leaving it floating. In other words, Naira, go and compete with other foreign currency. If you survive, that's it. If you don't survive, you're on your own. You know, it is wrong. So I would have expected that government should peg the Naira, 400 Naira to $1.
Oh.
You know, by the time they do that, you know, other economic you know, activities will not suffer because virtually everything in this country is imported.
Okay.
You know, raw materials are imported,
okay.
Finished goods are imported,
okay.
You know, and so people deal with business activity based on the value of Naira.
Okay, we'll be coming back to just quickly land on that thought. Yes. Land on your thought now so we can.
Yes, then we also have the issue of what do you call it? We'll talk about the exchange rate. The other issue of there are two major issues. We have the other issue of what do you call it now? I want to talk about the policy that central bank has also put in place that does not favor the common man. You know, that is also a major issue. In other words, why did they not diversify and say, okay, since our country is agri-based, where we don't need foreign input, why don't the central bank give agricultural loans to farmers, you know, to produce, you know, and take care of the security, because our farmers these days can no longer go to the farm.
We'll return back to you so you can establish and share more insight into this. But we've seen cases where these loans that are meant for farmers, they end up in the hands of civil servants. Some of them end up in the hands of politicians and their family members. You'll be helping us out. You just hold that on one hand. What will happen to these people who are seen as untouchable if the government bring them to book? Will it make any changes?
When I say powerful non-state actors, they are well entrenched in the system. As a matter of fact, during the election nearing, they bring out the money, the proceeds, some of which they have laundered outside the country to sponsor politicians to occupy position, whether as president, whether as a senator or House of Rep members or as governors, as the case may be. And so in that case, such a president, for instance, who has been sponsored by money bags, who got their wealth by ripping up the nation through crude oil theft and other criminal activities. You cannot now, because they are members of the same class with you, you cannot now come back and use the paraphernalia of the state to bring some people to justice. It will be tantamount to what they call class suicide. You'll be committing class suicide when you target your class members who help you to attain political ascendancy. So their hands are tied. So if a president, for example, former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, we say that those who perpetrate oil theft, they are powerful Nigerians. He knew what he meant by it. Because in Nigeria, the most powerful office is the office of the president. If the president now says those who are perpetrating oil theft and other criminal activities that rip the nation off, they are powerful people, it means the president knows them. When Buhari will come and say those who are involved in crude oil theft, who are blah, 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 they are very powerful people.
Some were called cabals.
Yes, whether you call them cabal, you just call them powerful people. He knew what he was saying. And if this president is saying the same thing, he knows what he's saying. So they cannot fight themselves.
They can't bring them to book.
Yes, because they are members of the same class. Now, talking about bringing people to book. Now, a nation state that fails to bring criminal element to book in the name of powerful element, that nation is on its way to what they call doomsday. We have examples. There was a time in the history of Philippines when the country was on the road to doomsday because persons were so powerful, starting from the ruling house of Ferdinand Marcos, the wife and the children. Even though the son is now the president, because from my study of the current president of the Philippines, he is somehow different from the activities of his father, because he has been a leader, parliamentarian for a very long time.
We need to quickly manage our time now. We have few seconds to leave. Prof, I actually said that you hold this on one hand. Just share more light on this. This government bailout, the government have a way of giving bailouts to people, but it doesn't get to the actual recipient. Do you think the government is sincere in a way?
Before we talk about bailout, we have to also look at what we call the fuel subsidy.
Okay.
You know, because it's very, very important. Because the common commodity that every Nigerian consumes is fuel, directly or indirectly. Okay. Either it's being used to run generators for business, or being used to run homes. So if the subsidy is removed, like Nigeria is presently experiencing, you know, it creates a lot of ripple effect. Okay. You know, and that is what is affecting the economy basically, the fuel subsidy and the exchange rate. Okay. Those are the two basic factors that. So I would have expected the government, having known that the average Nigerian cannot buy fuel at the high rate, or what they call market forces. They should peg it. I mean, the government can still make billions of naira if the fuel is pegged at 300 naira a liter. Okay. They can still make billions. So why? Because what are policies for? It's for the people. Okay. It's for the people. So if you miss that penalty and you are doing things to favor the Western nations, you know, to solidify the idea that, oh, you genuinely won the election and you want to use that to stay in office, you know, it is wrong because you are doing something against the people who voted you.
Okay, Prof, I think we would like to have an extension of this discussion as soon as, so that we can just nip it up and, of course, have a better time. So thank you so much, Nebo Bakedo, for being part of the program from Political Science, Uniben, and also Anthony Ijewere, Professor of Business from Novena University. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming.